We missed that yesterday. I don't know. The guy who filled in for you, I swear to you, I didn't think it was you at first, and it turned out it wasn't. We had Glenn, but
I'm sure Glenn did a great job.
Glenn did. Glenn did a nice job. He always does. He's a pro, and he's getting more and more comfortable, in front of the camera now. He's getting pretty good. So that was good. But we still missed you anyway. So although the guy's given a lot more time to Fox Biz than he is to us, Jared. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I'll be heading over there this afternoon, Pete, at 3 p.m. Eastern time with the lovely Liz Clayman.
There you go again.
And tomorrow with Charles Payne at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
That's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, that will be tight. We'll have to talk about it. We'll get it done, though. We always do. All right, folks, welcome to the Rebel's Edge. I'm John Najarian. He's Pete Najarian. Jared is doing all the heavy lifting today. And we've got some heavy stuff, including some puts that were making us some pretty heavy cash. And we'll talk about that. But first, we're going to start off with the Macro Minute. Congress and the White House are going to see how the U.S. debt ceiling discussions are going, and how they're going is zero, Pete, zero. President leaves tomorrow for a big meeting over in Tokyo, I believe. So the chances of anything happening today are slim and none, and Slim just left.
Well, and let me tell you something about Slim. Nice time to take a little vacation before he comes back and then suddenly decides, hey, you know what? The hell with this. I'm going to go overseas. I'll see you guys later. Well, we only got 30 plus trillion in a debt ceiling that we've got to figure this whole thing out. And McCarthy is I think he's putting some pressure on the president, John. But, this is something that we've said. It's interesting. I talked about it yesterday as well. This is the focal point. And I think it's why right now markets are kind of in this tight range, just trying to figure out, all right, what's going to happen. And I can tell you, they're going to kick the can. They're going to have to, because that guy in the White House ain't in the White House right now.
Right. And Pete, if this was so damned important, for all of you folks out there that are buying puts, if this was so damn important, why wouldn't this have been addressed long before this? Yeah. It's always wait up until the 11th hour and then, we're going to blame you for shutting down the government, whichever side it happens to be, because they both do it.
They both do it.
Like I said, the last time it happened, Pete, was under Obama, when he had both houses of Congress. So, this is just stupidity. We all know it's stupidity. And just like Pete said, they're going to kick the can. And it doesn't matter who's sitting in the president or the Congress. All right. Fantastic futures.
Fantastic futures.
Wow. That's damn good. That's fresh right there.
Yeah, it's got a lot more echo to it now. I thought this was interesting, Pete, because soybean oil, which of course you take soybeans, you squeeze them and you get the oil, and it's used in an awful lot of products. Well, it's down 10% in a month and 24% year to date. Now, I bet nobody watching this is going to come back and tell me, yeah, I noticed the price of soybeans at the store and soybean oil was way down. Not. That's very sticky, apparently, Pete.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, John, I've been going back and forth in energy and some of the metals and everything else, but today I'm just going to focus on nat gas. On May 4th, not that long ago, it was $2, literally. Today, we were up at 245. We've eased off of that, but it's been making a move over the last few trading sessions, and I think it is something very important. Just keep an eye on. Nat gas is moving to the upside. We had the mergers yesterday of some of the pipelines. There's a lot of activity, as we both know, in energy, but nat gas is still something I think we really do need to focus on as well.
And Pete, AJ Monty, our wonderful technician, CMT and so forth over here at Market Rebellion, he always says, when you get to a resistance to the upside, which we were at, and you break through, you almost always break back down. And that's the buy when it breaks back down. And then you see the surge. Yeah. So that That thing was right around 218 or so, Pete. We broke through it to 220 something, broke back down into the mid-teens, and now bang, like you said, Pete, 30 cents higher as far as moving up pretty fast. That's something we should pay attention to all the time. Okay, let's talk about Home Depot. This is Pete's favorite place to shop. I bet his wife wishes it was Jared's, the jewelry store, or something like that, but nope. Pete's always buying fertilizer or some sort of chips for his mulch. And they reported first quarter 2023 earnings, Pete, worst miss in 20 years. And they now expect to see a sales decline of 2% and 5% compared with fiscal 2022. That ain't good, is it?
No. And year over year, John, the earnings were pretty bad. There was they've slid down an immense amount. The customer transactions, that was down almost 5%. I mean, across the board. Now, this is something that we did just discuss the other day. Glenn and I were talking about this because we were talking about, boots on the ground and how that really can fit into things. I can tell you this, it's been a little bit lighter there. I always have said spring is Christmas time for Home Depot, right? I mean, it's when everybody's going, they're getting their lawns and everything else taken care of. Well, it's been a little bit slower this year, a lot less cars in the lot, and we are seeing exactly that play out right now as we've gotten away from the pandemic, and now people are opened up. But can they spend? They maybe can to some degree, but they've definitely pulled back significantly, John, at Home Depot. And when you forecast something as bad as they did, it's going to sting for a little while.
Yeah, and quite frankly, Pete, the stock, which was down 6%, then 5, 4, 3, 2, now only down 1%. So people are betting that what I think, Pete, is that people are betting we're going to see cuts. We're going to see a pause on rates in June, the 13th or 14th, and then we're going to see cuts in September. I've been saying that for months now. I stick by it, and it seems that why else would you be buying it here, Pete, after that, pretty horrific miss?
Right. Yep.
All right. Let's talk about Buffett, because Pete's buddy, Warren Buffett, he had a couple buys and a couple sells. He bought Diageo, get to that in a sec. He bought Cough, which is Capital One Financial, a lot of exposure to credit cards and things. Ally, he added to that, but he dumped Bank of New York Mellon and U.S. Bank Corp, USB. So, Pete, of these, even though Cough's interesting, I want to talk quickly about Diageo because he could have bought Budweiser because it's been getting its butt kicked. He didn't. He went for Guinness Cellar and Johnny Walker Red, Diageo. They do a lot more than that, of course, but he didn't go for the one that's got the controversy. I wonder why that is, Pete.
Because he's the Oracle of Omaha. That's why. I'll tell you, that was interesting, John. But as you point out also, they do have wine. They do have spirits. They have a lot more really, truly to offer than some of the others out there. Diageo's been an amazing company for a really long time, and I think it's something to keep an eye on. I would also say this. It was interesting to your point about where he decided to buy and where he decided to sell in terms of some of the banking type things. U.S. Bank, that name's been struggling. We've seen a lot of put buyers in there. We've seen that stock get pulled all the way down, not just to 30, under 30, under 29. We had puts just a week or so ago. They worked really, really well. But I'll tell you, John, the Oracle, he's still on fire. The guy's still doing a lot of the things the right way, I think. And I think it's really interesting how he's moved around a little bit. Capital One, as you know, I like that one a lot. I'm in that as well. So I'm happy to have the Oracle join in. Thanks a lot there, Warren.
Bang. All right. I'll cover more on that on Liz Clayman's show at 3, folks. All right. Let's talk about HZNP, Pete, because this one had a deal, so we thought, with Amgen all but wrapped up. And all of a sudden, the FTC throws a monkey wrench into it and says, you know what? We're going to file to block you, Amgen, that is, from taking over HZNP. And the stock just fell out of bed, Pete. And we had puts. which is one of the things we always love to point out to you guys, is that somebody always knows. And take a look at that on the screen. Horizon Therapeutics, somebody bought the June 100 puts when the stock was 108. Well, today it traded to 90. So those puts went to 10. That is a big windfall, Pete. Now, it could have been protective. It could have been somebody that was in it for the, the arbitrage or whatever. But either way, it's a damn nice trade.
Oh, it's a damn nice trade. It's great to see that. We see the unusual options all the time. You and I talk about them all the time. And it's incredible how accurate many of the times it really can be and predictive. And so is this going to last? I don't know, John. I actually think at some point they're going to be able to get this deal done. But that doesn't change the fact that those puts already worked. And now if you're not getting out, you're pretty stupid because you probably want to close that up. But and that would be the disciplined thing to do. I will say this about Horizon. These guys have a really deep group of different types of therapeutics, John, that are going, they're at least at phase 2, some of them already at phase 3. I think this is an incredible company. Amgen is not going to give up. $28 billion says that they're going to probably get this thing done. They'll get approval, I think, eventually. But I think right now it's just a hiccup. So I would say this, if you were in those puts, I'd cover them.
Yep. That's always good advice. You should cover on a windfall like that. You just got to cover it because it's not like one of their drugs got kicked by the FDA, Pete. That's can be for some stocks, not this one, but it could be a death sentence for some stocks if they all of a sudden are going through phase 1, 2, or 3 and they get kicked by the FDA. But this one's just basically a headline that maybe maybe Amgen has to slough off a brand or two or something, Pete. We'll have to see. But I agree with you 100%. All right. How about C Limited? This is an e-commerce platform for entertainment, for financial services, for all kinds of things. It was down 10%, then 20. I mean, this thing is just falling apart here, Pete. This is one of the biggest drops I've seen out of SE in a very, very long time. So whether it's mobile entertainment or whatever, Singapore-based company is just getting cracked. And basically the 200-day moving average, Pete's down around 67. Well, you know where the stock fell to today was 72 on the lows. And it's right there right now, $5 above that 67 number.
Yeah, you're going to get hit, John, when you miss as much as they did. I think they were looking for 68 cents. I think they reported 15 cents. That's not so great. When you look across at different parts of the business model, you look at digital entertainment, John, it was down 52%. The revenue, $540 million. So that was a big ouch. But on the e-commerce side, they were up 50%, and the numbers are pretty good. But let's always remember something. E-commerce, not a lot of margin. They just isn't a lot of margin. So I think the read-through for me is that entertainment was something that really did hurt them. And obviously the e-commerce was okay. Stock getting beat up. I got to tell you, I actually think there might be an opportunity here, John. I would be staring right at it. If it got all the way down to the level you were just talking about, it might be a very interesting level to keep a very close eye on because I don't know. This company's done a very, very nice job. They've done an incredible job over the years. We'll see, but it might be a buy if it actually gets that low.
If it gets that low, Pete, around that level, I would have to be a buyer. And for those who have a lot of guts on a day like when volatility is high like this in there, you could elect to get in there and sell some puts. That's not advice, but obviously when vol blows up, a put that would normally be $3 goes to $4 or $5. Those are the things you can take advantage of when you're like me and Pete and you're trading options. You just look for those blow-ups in vol and you generally buy them. You want to be a seller there. Yeah. All right, Pete, let's talk about Infinite Reality because they are sponsors of today's show. Today's Venture Minute is sponsored by Infinite Reality, the clear leader in metaverse strategy solutions, trusted by household names like Warner Brothers, NASCAR, Dell, and others. The company has the tools, skills, etc., to bring companies into the metaverse with fully immersive and engaging experiences that, combined with e-commerce solutions, enable monetization of brand presence in this new virtual frontier. To learn more about our sponsor, Infinite Reality, check out their website. Jared's got it up on the screen there, www.theinfinitereality.com. That's www.theinfinitereality.com. All right, Pete, thanks to Infinite Reality and so forth, we can now afford to do sports. So what do you got for us in sports?
Yeah, we're going to jump on this XFL thing, John. I mean, we don't have to go too long on it, but I just wanted to point out a few things. It was unwatchable. It was terrible. We all know that. I mean, it just got worse every single week. That being said, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of those guys that are signing up in the NFL right now, John, and the most prevalent area of football that they are looking at, defensive linemen. There's at least 6 or 7 that have already signed with teams. I've got guys coming from the Houston Roughnecks going to Tampa. I've got another one going to the Saints. I got another one going to Atlanta. I got a guy from the Sea Dogs going to Carolina. I'll tell you what, there is talent out there, and the NFL doesn't always get it right. So every once in a while, the XFL, the USFL, any of these spring leagues, it's kind of fun to see some of these guys, John, who just finished a season that are going to now go right into another season, and they're signing up with all these various teams. I noticed one thing for sure. The Saints were pretty aggressive in some of the moves that they've made, picking up some of these XFL guys. Not necessarily like they're giving them all the money in the world or anything, but it sure is great. As a guy who was one of those guys who played in a spring league, I can tell you, you get pretty excited when the NFL comes knocking and they're saying, you know what, you guys might have done this, but we really want you to do this and do it for us. They had linebackers, they had safeties. What do you think, John? What's wrong with the spring leagues? What does the Rock and these guys have to do to get people to watch the daggone games? Because those ratings are always start here, but they finish down here.
Yeah, and they've got the championships, right, Pete? And most people couldn't tell you who's in it.
No.
But, I've got a soft spot, Pete, for Division III ball players because that was me. I tried to play at Division I. It didn't work out for me, so I ended up playing at a D3 school and then got a shot at the Bears. Well, I like this one kid, Michael Joseph. He came out of Dubuque, University of Dubuque. He ran a 4.5 at the combine, Pete. That year, because he's a few years older now, that year that he came out, he was the only D3 guy invited to the combine. How about that? And he is likely to get a spot somewhere. I think A.J. McCarron, who we all know, lit him up at, it was Alabama, right, Pete?
Yep.
And he had that, girlfriend that got more headlines than him, I think.
For the right reason.
At Alabama. But I think he could get a shot. There are plenty of teams that would have loved to have had him as a backup. And who knows? Just like Mr. Irrelevant started for the 49ers and almost got them to the Super Bowl. I would think A.J. McCarron could have stepped into that. And other than that, Pete, I'd say, those are the sorts of players that I was looking at. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of wide receivers that did real well. There's a kicker named Parker Romo that was playing for San Antonio that looked like he could kick in the NFL. So I think you will see some of these players catch on with some teams. You already named a bunch that have already signed. I think there will be more.
Well, and I can even tell you this. How about this? The guy playing with me when I played back in Sacramento back in the day, 1992, I taught a guy how to play linebacker. His name was Michael Jones. He ended up making the Super Bowl saving tackle on the last play of the game for the St. Louis Rams. That's how old I am. St. Louis Rams. So those guys, you know what? There's talent everywhere. It's just a matter of can they find it and do they get the opportunity, John? Speaking of talent, let's just go right to Otani. You and I talked about this guy last week and what kind of salary, what do you pay this guy who is arguably one of the best pitchers in the league and arguably one of the best batters in the league? Well, we had that argument or discussion last week. We talked about what kind of money he might be able to get, and it could be extraordinary. It should be extraordinary. But how about this? Last night, he's now the first starting pitcher since 1964 That's just about 60 years ago, to do something that he did last night. He got to base 5 separate times during the game. He got somewhere. He almost had the cycle, John. He just missed the cycle. And it was just an amazing thing to watch this guy. Oh, by the way, he also had a home run that was 456 feet. So when people say to me, because I had people afterwards, they put up these little clips and so forth on Twitter. I had some guy say, there's no way they're going to pay him that. There's no way he's going to deserving of that. It's like, really? Honestly, how about this? Is there anybody even close other than going all the way back to Babe Ruth, John, where you've seen a guy who can pitch and hit home runs? It's not like he's just slapping the ball, John, and he's pretty accurate. This is a guy who actually hits home runs. He's athletic as all get out. I mean, at what point are we going to all just start to say, you know what? Of all the sports, this guy is truly the GOAT, because he certainly is.
Well, he's certainly putting up numbers like he is, Pete. Like you said, hitting a 3-run home run. I love when he puts on the samurai helmet, Pete, because that's his thing. I love that, they have the pictures of him. If you look around, folks, you'll find him, but it's him with a samurai helmet on. Because that's his home run celebration. And like Pete said, he wasn't just slapping at the ball. That home run, he buried it deep in Baltimore, deep, all the way back to
man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this guy, if you want to fade it, if you want to bet against Pete, folks, go ahead. But I think this guy's going to get Judge money, Pete. I think he's going to get Aaron Judge kind of money. Because, he is a do-it-all player, and, sponsors have to be all over this guy, not just in our country, obviously, but worldwide, including, of course, his where he started over in Japan.
Yep, absolutely. So much fun. And I'll tell you what, I would encourage anybody who's not had a chance to watch him play. I mean, this guy does things that nobody else does, and nobody has done for a lot of years. We just talked about that, getting on base 5 different times as a pitcher. I mean, everything he does is amazing. And so far, he's just been absolutely incredible. And he seems to be pretty humble, John, which is sort of unusual in today's sports athlete.
Yeah, well, I'd say. Well, folks, thanks for joining us today. I hope you join me at 3:00 today for Liz Clayman's Clayman Countdown. And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Infinite Reality. Go to theinfinitereality.com to learn more about what they do about bringing brands into the metaverse. And we want to thank Jared for putting up the graphics, doing a great job, and all of you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.